Praise the Lord, my dear friends. We are on the third Sunday in Ordinary Time. And today in the readings, we see something very special about the character of our loving God, which each one of us need to imitate. In the first reading, we see God calling Prophet Jonah to go to preach to the people of Nineveh. Though initially he was unwilling to, because of the incidents that happened in his life, he realizes his vocation and he goes to Nineveh. However, when we look at chapter 3, we see God speaking to Jonah a second time. And here God says, "Get up, go at once to Nineveh, that great city, and cry out against it." That was exactly the same calling that the Lord gave to Jonah before he ran away from the presence of God. Now Jonah ran away from the presence of God. He who was called to be a channel of grace became a channel of destruction for the people who were in boat with him. And later he had to be thrown out of the boat, and the Lord arranged a fish for him. And after spending 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the fish, Jonah was vomited out onto the shore. After all these things happened because of the lack of fidelity from the side of Jonah, God gave Jonah back exactly the same mission that he gave him in the beginning. As human beings, what we would have done? Probably we would have told Jonah, "Okay, Jonah, since you made this terrible mistake, you come back, let me observe you for maybe a few months, and then I will make my decision." Or someone even more generous would say, "Okay, Jonah, you come back, and then first you go to this small village." Nineveh was a great city, right? Now you are not ready. So you go to the small village, and if you do well, I will think of sending you to Nineveh. Or even you go to this 10 houses in Nineveh, and then if you do well, I will send you to the entire city. We human beings are too slow to trust the goodwill of the others, especially when a person changes over from the bad way of life to a good way of living. Sometimes we hear people saying, "I really want to do well, but then people always interact with me with reference to how I was in my past." And that is true. At times, even when people take a good decision to change over, we do not allow them. We unknowingly have this tendency to think, "Okay, this was so-and-so who made that mistake, or it was she who made that mistake," and so on. But look at God. When Jonah decided to make up his mind to follow the Lord, which we see at the end of chapter 2, where Jonah says, "With a voice of thanksgiving will I sacrifice to the Lord, and the vows which I have made I will pay." That was enough for God. God just trusted Jonah. We don't see God even asking Jonah, "Jonah, after giving you such a wonderful vocation, why did you go away from my presence?" God did not even ask for an explanation. How beautiful it will be if we too are able to deal with others in that way. Though we know that the person with whom we interact might have made this or that mistakes, can we interact with them with love, without reference to those incidents which would make them embarrassed? And it's also possible that if we constantly remind a person of the past mistakes that person has done, even indirectly, the person might think, "After all, everyone is thinking of me that way, so why would I change? I will continue that way." We need to be loving and generous and forgiving like our God. And look at the gospel passage today. We see Jesus calling his first disciples, the fishermen, Simon and Andrew, James, John, and he told them, "Follow me, I will make you fishers of men." When he called them, did he not know that at the time of his crucifixion, when he would be arrested, all of them would run away from him? Did he not know that Peter would deny him 3 times, saying that "I do not even know him"? Of course, Jesus would have known that. But Jesus knew we human beings learn through mistakes. Jesus does not identify an individual with his mistakes. Instead, Jesus facilitates the transformation with his presence. Do we identify people with their mistakes? Or do we become instruments of transformations in their life? And in the second reading taken from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, we see St. Paul saying, "The time is growing short. We do not have much time." And Mother Teresa says, "If we keep judging people, we have no time to love them." My dear brothers and sisters, let us see how we too can be instruments of transformations in the life of others without judging them. Even when we know that the individuals with whom we interact has certain negative past or certain weaknesses, let us focus on the goodness that he or she has. Because when we get into an interaction with others, though we have a lot of weaknesses and negative sides, that's what we want them to do to us. And more than all, Jesus says, "Be perfect as your Father." May God bless each one of us.